Diagnostic test. Passage number 1. Listen to a conversation between a student and an administrator.
Good morning. How may I help you?
Hi, I'm here because I want to know if it's possible to move into the dormitory. Do you know who I could speak to for the information?
I can actually help you with that, although I must say at this point in the semester, the rooms are pretty much filled up. Is there any particular reason you want to move?
Well, I'm actually renting a studio apartment across from the university because I thought it would be great to have some personal space. But now I realize that living in a dormitory will be a great chance to meet others and make some friends since I'm a freshman from out of town.
I see. Well, if you feel so, let me see what I can do. Oh, you're in luck. Someone will be moving out next week, so it looks like we will have a vacancy. But the elevators are all booked for the weekend. It seems like you'll have to move during the weekday. Is that all right for you?
Oh, really? There's no way to move on the weekend? My school schedule is pretty hectic, so it's going to be hard to move on a weekday.
I'm afraid it's already all taken. Do you have a lot of things to move?
Not exactly. Just my clothes and some small personal things. I do have a lot of books, though, which I'll need to bring. Oh, and a desk, which is kind of heavy. Does the school have any kind of moving services to help students?
Generally, no. That's up to the student. However, if you think you'll have trouble finding one, I could look that up for you and see what I can find.
That would be extremely helpful. I'm still pretty clueless about everything around here.
Sure, we'll help you. Your room will be a decent size, so everything should fit in quite well.
That's great to know. I was wondering if I am allowed to add some personal touches to the room.
What kinds of decor are you thinking?
Nothing concrete. I just want to know the regulation before I decorate the room.
We don't allow room modifications such as wall paintings, but you can put up wall hangings if you want to. Just make sure to mount them firmly. The school's policy is that students can change their room as long as they return the room to its original state when they leave. Also, be careful not to cause any damage to the built-in furniture, otherwise it will cost you a fine. Any other questions?
No, that answers everything for now, I guess.
All right. Well, why don't we get started on your paperwork and get your move underway?
Question number 1. What is the conversation mainly about? A. Getting advice on how to decorate a room. B. Searching for a roommate. C. Getting a room at the dormitory. D. Making an appointment with a moving company. Question number 2. Why does the student want to move out from his studio? A. He has financial difficulties. B. He wants to make new friends. C. He opposes his studio's strict housing regulations. D. His rental contract has ended. Question number 3. According to the conversation, what are the school policies regarding the dormitory use? Click on 2 answers. A. Students can only move in and out on the weekdays. B. The room should be in its original state when one vacates. C. Moving should be done by professionals from the moving company. D. Students need to reimburse the school for damaged built-in furniture. Question number 4. Listen again to part of the conversation, then answer the question. I was wondering if I am allowed to add some personal touches to the room.
What kinds of decor are you thinking?
Nothing concrete. I just want to know the regulation before I decorate the room. What does the student mean when he says this? Nothing concrete. A. The student does not have any specific idea. B. The student worries that the wall is not hard enough. C. The student prefers decorations with a soft texture. D. The student has not decided on what date to move in. Question number 5. According to the conversation, what will the student likely do next? A. He will fill out a form to move into the dormitory. B. He will apply to get onto the dormitory's waiting list. C. He will go shopping to buy wall hangings. D. He will get a quotation from the moving company.
Passage number 2. Listen to part of a lecture in a zoology class. Good morning, everyone. As I mentioned last class, today we're going to look at a form of communication animals use to share information. This form is called alarm calling, and it's used by animals to alert others of predators which may be nearby. One of the most well-known species of animals who use this communication technique is the vervet monkey, which has evolved different alarm calls for different predators. You see, the vervet monkey's habitat is known for having predators attacking them from all sides, leopards and snakes on the ground, as well as eagles in the air. The sight of each kind of predator elicits an acoustically distinct alarm call. The alarm calls are also high-frequency sounds. They make these higher-pitched sounds because they are harder to be localized by predators. The alarm call for a leopard is short and tonal, produced in a series of inhalations and exhalations. On the other hand, the alarm call for an eagle is a low-pitched grunt. Finally, snake alarm calls are high-pitched chutters. Now, alarm calls for each predator are distinct and different because the reaction of the vervet monkey depends on the call. For example, if the vervet monkeys interpret a leopard alarm call, it would try to run up into a tree to avoid being ambushed by the leopard. The vervet monkeys would then sit on the branches furthest away from the tree trunk. They do this because leopards can climb trees, but those farther, smaller branches can't support their weight. Now, how will the vervet monkey react when an eagle alarm call is given?
I guess the exact opposite from a leopard alarm call?
Yes, that's correct. They will immediately look up and then find the nearest bush to run for cover to avoid an overhead aerial attack. Lastly, if a vervet monkey hears a snake alarm call, it would stand on both legs and instantly look down at the ground. As I just said, vervet monkey is a really interesting primate to understand the communication skills in animals. In addition to their communication skills, they are valuable subjects, since their behavior also resembles certain social behavior of humans. One of the controversies among scholars is whether or not these alarm calls represent a selfless act or a selfish act. What I mean by this is that if a vervet monkey raises an alarm call for others to hear, it risks identifying its location to the predator, thus the self-sacrificing behavior. Scientists refer to this kind of selfless act as altruistic behavior. However, other research into this animal behavior indicates that vervet monkeys will only raise alarm calls if they know an immediate family member is near. Young monkeys, for example, would probably only cry out to warn their mother, rather than a monkey who is not related to them. This line of thought falls into the notion that alarm calls are simply an instinctual response to ensure the continuation of the family gene pool.
Question number 6. Why does the professor discuss the habitat of the vervet monkey? A. To explain why the alarm calls vary. B. To compare it to that of predators. C. To emphasize its geographical advantage. D. To describe the reason altruistic behavior is needed. Question number 7. According to the lecture, what are mentioned as vervet monkeys' reactions to the alarm call? Click on 2 answers. A. Standing on both legs and looking down. B. Hiding in a bush. C. Clinging to another vervet monkey. D. Swimming in the closest river. Question number 8. Why does the professor mention the vervet monkey's altruistic behavior? A. To describe vervet monkey's newly discovered behavior. B. To explain its advantage through evolution. C. To compare two different viewpoints about alarm calls. D. To highlight the vervet monkey's high moral code. Question number 9. What can be inferred about young vervet monkeys? A. They are willing to sacrifice themselves on behalf of other monkeys. B. They often confuse the alarm calls they should make. C. They take years to fully develop alarm calls. D. They retain strong emotional connections with their mother. Question number 10. What is the professor's attitude toward the vervet monkeys? A. He questions their place between apes and humans. B. He mocks their moral level. C. He thinks they are worthy of careful study. D. He agrees they are the most evolved primates. Question number 11. In the lecture, the professor describes several different alarm calls made by the vervet monkey. Indicate which alarm call is related to which predator. Click in the correct box for each phrase. A. Tonal alarm. B. Low-pitched grunt. C. High-pitched chutter. D. Short alarm.
Passage number 3. Listen to part of a lecture in a U.S. history class.
As I mentioned last class, we're going to go over today how essential the railroad system is to the economy of the United States. When we think of various products like the food on our table, the shoes on our feet, or even the cars we drive, the first thing that comes to mind might not necessarily be trains. But the fact is, in the United States, a very large percentage of products are transported around the country by train. Now, of course, when I say train, I'm not talking about commuter trains, but rather freight trains. Commuter trains or passenger trains now play a very limited role, especially compared to other countries who rely on commuter trains to move their populations around their country. On the other hand, in the US, freight trains are still heavily used for shipments and account for almost 40% of all shipments of products. Does anyone want to guess the role of trains in U.S. history?
I heard it not only fostered industry growth, but also lowered transportation costs.
You're right. As you said, railroads have always played a crucial role in the economic growth of our country. But there are some other roles too. Engineering and natural resource industries took off to fuel the development of the railroad in the 19th century, providing a ton of jobs for Americans. The railroad was also a key factor in the development of the American West, not only by transporting investors and laborers across the country from the East Coast to the center and West Coast, but also by stimulating the growth of business in these areas that were beginning to be settled by European Americans. Now, if we fast forward to the present year, we'll see that American freight railroads have become some of the best in the world. They support about 1.2 million jobs in various industries, including almost 200,000 high-paying jobs in the freight rail industry. These workers are some of America's most highly compensated workers, with wages and benefits earned totaling around $114,000. Not a bad industry to be working in, huh? To put this into perspective, the average wage of a full-time U.S. employee, including benefits, is $70,000. Finally, there are a lot of other public benefits the freight system provides, which we might not always think about. First, compared to trucks, freight trains are more fuel-efficient and emit less harmful gases into the atmosphere. Most importantly, they relieve traffic congestion on the highways. According to the Texas Transportation Institute, in 2011, highway congestion cost Americans $121 billion, a figure which is possibly even more today. Freight trains, however, can carry the same freight as several hundred trucks, reducing highway gridlock and the pressure to build costly new highways. Okay, let's take a look at some of the main products shipped by freight trains.
Question number 12. What is the main idea of this lecture? A. The development of the railroad in the 1800s. B. The role the railroad plays in the U.S. economy. C. Social and economic problems caused by the railway. D. How to secure employment in the railway sector. Question number 13. Why does the professor mention the commuter train? A. To appreciate its role in daily life. B. To contrast its structure to that of the freight train. C. To differentiate the role of the freight train. D. To illustrate extended roles of the train in the 19th century. Question number 14. According to the lecture, how did the railway help the American West? A. By promoting local business growth. B. By convincing people to enter the transportation industry. C. By transporting early European American settlers. D. By producing a number of high-paying jobs. Question number 15. Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
They support about 1.2 million jobs in various industries, including almost 200,000 high-paying jobs in the freight rail industry. These workers are some of America's most highly compensated workers, with wages and benefits earned totaling around $114,000. Not a bad industry to be working in, huh?
What does the professor mean when she says this?
Not a bad industry to be working in, huh?
A. She believes there should be more benefits from working in the railway industry. B. She considers that the railway industry is a relatively easy field to get a job in. C. She thinks the railway industry is a profitable industry to work in. D. She feels the workers in the railway sector are overpaid. Question number 16. According to the professor, what are the public benefits of freight trains? Click on two answers. A. They are more fuel efficient. B. They catalyze the real estate boom. C. They relieve highway congestion. D. They provide faster shipment of goods. Question number 17. What can be inferred about the railroad system in the U.S.? A. It assures high salaries and benefits. B. It was a mostly used means of transportation in the past. C. It guarantees unemployment problem solving. D. It stretches throughout the mainland of the U.S.